क्वचित् प्रभाते दधिपूर्णपात्रे निक्षिप्य मन्थं युवती मुकुन्दम् आलोक्य गानं विविधं करोति गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति क्रीडा परं भोजनमजनार्थं हितैषिणी स्त्री तनुजं यशोदा आजूहवत् प्रेम परिप्लुताक्षी गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति सुखं शयानं निलये च विष्णुं देवर्षि मुख्या मुनय प्रपन्ना तेनाच्युते तन्मयतां व्रजन्ति गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति माधवेति विहाय निद्रामरुणोदये च विद्धाय कृत्यानि च विप्रमुख्याः वेदावसाने प्रपठन्ति नित्यं गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति वृन्दावने गोपगणाश्च गोप्यो विलोक्य गोविन्द वियोगखिन्नां राधां जगु साश्रुविलोचनाभ्यां गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति प्रभात संचार गता तु गावस्तदर्चनार्थं तनयं यशोदा प्राबोधयत् पानितलेन मन्दं गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति 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 गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति। Gopal Krishna Bhagavan ki jai. Hello everybody, humble greetings, humble pranams and special welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for joining with me today in day 90, session 90 of our 100-day Srimad Bhagvad Gita challenge, where our aim is to recite the entire Srimad Bhagvad Gita in 100 days, 7 shlokas each day. Today, prior to commencing again, we joined in reciting 6 more verses of the Govind Damodar Stotra, and now we prepare ourselves to join in the Dhyana shlokas, the meditative stanzas dedicated to Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Hari Om Hari Om Hari Om Ganesha Namah Shri Saraswati Namah Shri Guru Charan Kamal Bhyo Namah Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Narayana प्रतिबोधिता भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथिता पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्धामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् नमोऽस्तु ते व्यास विशालबुद्धे उल्लारविन्द यत्र पत्र नेत्र येन त्वया भारत तैलपूर्ण प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमय प्रदीपः प्रपन्न पारिजाताय तोत्र वैत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतद्वे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दुग्धगोपालनन्दन पार्थो वत्स सुधीर्भुक्त दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूर्यमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं भीष्मद्रोण तथा चेतत जलगाधारनेनोत्पल शल्यग्राहवति कृपेण वहनेन कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामा विकर्णघोरमकर दुर्योधनावर्तिनि सूर्तिर्न खलु पाण्डवैरन्नदि कैवर्तक केशव पाराशरवचः सरोजम् अमलं गीतार्थगन्धोत्कथं नानख्यानकगैसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितं लोके सज्जन षट्पदैरहरः पेपीयमानौ मुदा भूयात् भारतपङ्कजं कलिमल् प्रध्वंसिनः श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं बन्धुं लङ्घयति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुत स्तुवन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगं ध्यानावस्थिततर्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगण देवाय तस्मै नमः। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो नारायणाय ॐ नमो नारायणाय। गीता माता की जय, गोपाल कृष्ण भगवान की जय। Victory to Mother Bhagavad Gita, victory to Bhagwan Shri Krishna. We now join in this meditative hymn which praises Srimad Bhagvad Gita, Gita Mata, was composed by Sadguru Sankeshav Das. कल्याण जय भगवत गीते माते। तत्त्वज्ञाने शान्ति निधाने शान्ति निधाने भवभयारिणि सर्वगुण गणे सर्वगुण गणे जय भगवते माते मुक्तिदायिनी शक्तिकारिणी शक्तिकारिणी भक्ति प्रचोदिनी जननी 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 जय भगवती। जीवार्जुन मोह खिल विषहारिणी खिल विचारिणी देवकी तनय श्री कृष्ण चिंतामणि कृष्ण चिंतामणि जय भगवद गीते आशा मोह स्वार्थ समारिणी स्वार्थ समारिणी दास के सबनुत हृदय विहारिणी हृदय विहारिणी जय भगवद गीते भगवद गीते गीते मादे गीते मादे हरि गीता माता की जय. Victory to Mother Bhagavad Gita, victory to Bhagavan Shri Krishna. In our previous session, dear friends, we stopped off at verse number 5, shlok number 5 of chapter 18, the final chapter, Moksha Sannyasa Yoga, where Arjuna asked the question seeking clarification of what is sannyas, what is tyag. And our divine master Yogeshwar, this Lord of all yoga, Shri Krishna, in his divine mercy, treating Arjuna as his disciple and all of humanity as his subjects, as his students. This Jagat Guru is teacher of the entire universe. He gives the teaching. So we continue today from verse number 6, as Shri Krishna continues to give the answer to Arjuna's question and seeking clarification. Krishna is speaking. Etanyapī tu karmāni sangam tyaktva phalāni ca kartavyāni ti me partha nishchitam matam uttamam. Etanyapī tu karmāni sangam tyaktva phalāni ca kartavyāniti me partha nishchitam matam uttamam. He's saying, these acts of sacrifice, charity and penance and all other acts too must be performed without attachment and expectation of reward. This is my well considered and supreme verdict, O Arjuna. If you were to recall, Shri Krishna, in attempting to clarify to Arjuna what is sannyas, what is tyag, he says the acts of sacrifice, charity, penance, they are not worth giving up and they must be performed. For sacrifice, charity and penance, yajna, dan, tapas, these are purifiers of the wise men. And then he says these acts of sacrifice, charity and penance, yajna, dan, tapas, and all other acts of duty, kartavya, must be performed without attachment and expectation of a reward. This is his considered and supreme verdict. Attachment is really the spirit in which an egocentric personality will come to work in any field of activity while fulfilling his or her own egocentric desires. Ego and its desires are the component parts of attachment. When ego strives to fulfill its own burning desires, it comes to live in a certain relationship with the world of things and objects around. This really is called that attachment. Charity, austerity, sacrifice, this dan, tapas, yajna must be performed in an attitude of detachment, renouncing all anxieties for the enjoyments of fruits. This is why in each you would see inherent in them is that sacrifice. Inherent in charity, austerity, sacrifice is discipline, and that discipline quite often entails some period of fasting too. And this fasting really helps one to renounce these anxieties for the enjoyment of the fruits. So certain types of foods are avoided, certain types of activities are avoided, and that individual maintains a rigid and rigorous period of discipline, which is really then to lift the mind out of those negative tendencies. To be rid of this attachment and anxiety regarding the fruits really is the creed or that motto that Sri Krishna continues to revolve all of his teachings around. The mind which is hungry, thirsty, and hankers for things shrinks. This is really life at the lower level. The mind that gives up grows. It is like, if you were to consider, in order for the physical body, let's say in the case of one who is exercising to become a bodybuilder or to build muscle, in order for that muscle to be conditioned and grow in size, that individual needs to graduate from the lighter weights to the heavier weights. So it is in giving up the lighter weight, taking on the heavier one, which demands a lot more effort, that muscle is worked and it grows eventually. Similarly, that mind that gives up grows. It gives up the attachments, and in so doing grows and elevates itself to the divine level. The true height of one's glory is in the contribution that individual makes towards the collective betterment of all, and not in the physical material wealth amassed. That Lord goes on further to say, Niyatasya tu sannyasah karmano nopapadyate mohatasya parityagas tamasah parikirtitah. Niyatasya tu sannyasah karmano nopapadyate mohatasya parityagas tamasah parikirtitah. Prohibited acts and those that are motivated by desire should no doubt be given up, but it is not advisable to abandon a prescribed duty. Such abandonment through ignorance has been declared as tamasic. Quite often, many conveniently know to use fasting, discipline as a convenient excuse to get away from duty. Many who live in the householder phase of life abandon family, abandon children, leave them unprotected, and as we say, out exposed in the cold, seeking some spiritual elevation. And this here, according to Sri Krishna, is forced sannyas. This is derogatory and destructive. Nitya karma means obligatory duty. This is one that one has to perform. Nitya karma refers to that obligatory duty that every single individual has to do. Yajna, dan, tapas, this really is the nitya karma or the daily duty of that one who is desirous of advancing on that spiritual path. The unwise, they act out of this tamasic disposition, and this is born out of ignorance. However, this ignorance should not be the cause that fuels or triggers off the renunciation. It means we should have just claims and have a position which is arrived at based on vivek or discrimination, and then we renounce. It shouldn't be out of ignorance. This is the point that Sri Krishna is making here. For it is quite easy to become confused and misinterpret this whole concept of tyag, abandonment, and renunciation, sannyas, as history has proven times repeatedly. And no better example than in Bhagavad Gita itself, reading about Arjuna, who wants to abandon his prescribed duty, and that abandonment is coming from that position of ignorance. This is why Sri Krishna, in this chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, in summarizing all that he has mentioned before, is again hammering this point to Arjuna and to all of humanity. That master continues to deal with these controversial areas of abandonment and sannyas, renunciation. Dukkhamityeva yat karma kaya klesha bhyaya tyajet sakritva rajasam tyagam naiva tyaga phalam labhet. Dukkhamityeva yat karma kaya klesha bhyaya tyajet sakritva rajasam tyagam naiva tyaga phalam labhet. Should anyone give up his duties for fear of physical strain, thinking that all actions are verily painful, practicing such a rajasic form of renunciation, he does not reap the fruit of renunciation. Again, many conveniently resort to renunciation, and this is the point that Sri Krishna is making. This rajasic abandonment because it is painful or through fear of bodily suffering, then we renounce that act. That shouldn't be the cause. When predominated by this rajas natya, one will readily undertake action to fulfill his obligatory duties if they are not painful and they are not too fatiguing. Performance of one's duty is in itself the most glorious form of all tyaga, and even more so if it involves a certain level of sacrifice of one's own personal conscience for bodily comfort and convenience. So quite often we are willing to do so long as we are not in any way inconvenienced. So it means all acts become that which only work within our comfort zone, which makes us see that true duty is one where we go beyond, even if it means we are inconvenienced, even if it means sometimes you undergo discomfort. And see, parents who are providers in their home brave long distances, inclement weather, hours of traffic, and whatever challenges to get to their workplace to perform their duty so that they will earn enough to support their family. Why do we undergo the hardships we undergo? It is because we are committed to some greater duty. It is because at the end of that chain there is someone who depends on us. This is why we undergo all of those sacrifices. But if one were to abandon that for fear of bodily hurt or bodily harm or even simple inconvenience, then that abandonment is termed as rajasic. Arjuna, he was overcome by this state of rajasic tyag. Real abandonment should always lead us to ampler fields of self-expression and push us further, introducing us then to the greater experiences of joy. Every abandonment should lead us to a nobler state, or to a state which is better than the previous state we were in. Consider the bud becoming a flower, becoming a fruit. The flower abandons the state as the bud, and the fruit abandons the state of the flower, and each progressively becomes better. Similarly, when we practice such abandonment in our life, it is then to aid and facilitate a constant upward movement, growth, progress. Sri Krishna continues to say, Karyamityeva yat karma niyatam kriyate arjuna sangam tyakta phalam chaiva satyagaha satiko mataha. Karyamityeva yat karma niyatam kriyate arjuna sangam tyakta phalam chaiva satyagaha satiko mataha. A prescribed duty which is performed simply because it has to be performed, giving up attachment and fruit, that alone has been recognized as sattvic form of renunciation. In Rajasic and Tamasic Tyag, there is abandonment of karma. However, in the sattvic Tyag, the execution of duty goes unabated. It goes on and on. In sattvic Tyag, the renunciant is not concerned with the fruits. He does his duty to the best of the ability, like that parent who undergoes all of the sacrifices for that child, not wanting anything in return. So doing their best, at the same time not attached to whatever is done, or the fruits or the outcome of it. He does not renounce only karma, meaning the case of the sattvic tyagi. He only renounces the agency. Calmness and purity, they are born of this frame of mind. It means he does what he does, and that sense of doership, he renounces that. And entitlement means whatever is done, to whom that fruit goes to, he renounces even that. It had to be done, it was done, full stop, the end. The sattvic tyagi renounces the fruit of the action after the continued execution of the duty. He is fixed in this state known as Atma Bodha. We see here how we must abandon and in which field we must act. Tyag really is the subjective relinquishment of all inner selfishness and desire which limits the freedom of an individual in his field of activity. It is abandonment of such things within our personality that block the free flow of our own possibilities. So in abandoning those blockages, it means we can then grow into being the best that we can be. And if you were to think about it, try walking with different ropes or strings tugging at your body. It's difficult to move freely. The minute we relinquish and cut ties with all of those strings and ropes, or whatever it is, we feel free. We can move as we want. Similarly, when we practice this tyag, this abandonment, it means we are then freed or liberated from all of those strings and ties. So tyag makes an active man a more potential worker in the world. Means they can grow to fulfill and achieve beyond their potential. Activity in the world outside, renouncing both the ego and the egocentric desires, an individual comes to exhaust the vasanas and grow in the inward purity. Sri Krishna goes on further to say, Na dveshtaya akushalam karma kushalena anushajjate tyagi sattva samavishto medhavi chhina sanshayah. Na dveshtaya akushalam karma kushalena anushajjate tyagi sattva samavishto medhavi chhina sanshayah. He who has neither aversion for action, which is leading to bondage, nor attachment to that which is conducive to blessedness, imbued with the quality of goodness, he has all his doubts resolved, is intelligent, and a man of true renunciation. Steady understanding, medhavi, sees Purush and Prakriti as they are. Karma and akarma do not create any confusion in the mind. This akarma is characteristic of Atman, who occupies the position of a mirror. No change happens in the mirror. The activities of Prakriti, they are reflected in the Purush. On that ground, the Purush is unaffected. That one of true renunciation, steady-minded, sthita prajna, of steady wisdom, that one knows this truth, and equanimity becomes the nature of that individual. He has a faculty to abandon his identification with the false lower instincts in himself, and he does not become a victim of the vasanas, or these mental impressions. He stands ever free and apart from the tumults of the mind. The tyagi, who has cultivated this habit of practicing abandonment of all the animalistic tendencies and following the true nature of this Atman, really is known as the Sattvic Tyagi. He must possess this Medha Shakti, the intellect's power of reasoning, memorizing and retaining. This Medhavi is really one who knows constantly the constituents of the fields of the activity, the instruments through which he conducts the world, his own divine nature, and the exact relationship with the world of objects when he is contacting it through the senses. So that one who is of this sattvic nature of renunciation, of abandonment, is doubt-free. This is why, with this Medha Shakti, possessing this power of reasoning, they will understand the nature and the relation between themselves and the environment around. Through this power of memory, they will always remember that. And through retaining whatever is remembered, it means they will never ever fall victim to the senses being blinded by the environment that they interact in. But they would only climb along that ladder of consciousness, of awareness, and truly then dwell in that state of supreme bliss, which stands separate from all of the superficial happenings of this world. Yogeshwara Shri Krishna goes on further to say, Nahi deha vrita shakyam tyaktum karmanya sheshatah yastu karma phalatyagi satyagitya vidhiyate. Nahi deha vrita shakyam tyaktum karmanya sheshatah yastu karma phalatyagi satyagitya vidhiyate. Since all actions cannot be given up in their entirety by anyone possessing a body, he alone who renounces the fruit of actions is called a man of renunciation. Actions are the insignia of life. We who are embodied cannot abandon all activities as long as we live. The only choice then is to direct and discipline our actions to bring harmony into one's life. We can practice tyag of our most clinging attachments and anxieties for the fruit of the actions. Action cannot be completely abandoned by one who is conditioned by the gross, subtle and causal bodies. We are therefore advised by Sri Krishna to abandon the anxiety to enjoy the fruits of the actions which are yet to come in a future period of time. This tyagi really is one who abandons the thirst to enjoy the fruits of the actions. Sri Krishna goes on further to say, Anishtam ishtam mishram cha trividham karmana phalam Avatya atyaginam pretya natu sanyasinam kvachit. Anishtam ishtam mishram cha trividham karmana phalam Avatya atyaginam pretya natu sanyasinam kvachit. Agreeable, disagreeable and mixed threefold indeed is the fruit that accrues after death from the actions of the unrenouncing, atyaginam. But there is none whatsoever for those who have renounced. Different types of reactions would accrue when different types of tyag are practiced. This projection of a willful desire in the world is an action, and according to the purity and serenity of the one doing the action, a psychological effect or reaction is left at the end of the activity. Follow here. The mind tends to repeat itself. Future thoughts follow the footprints left by the past thoughts. Therefore, Actions in the world determine the thought tendencies of the human mind, and these tendencies or vasanas condition the mental equipment and order or reactions to the things that are happening around. The fruit of action is also the subtle constitutional changes it leaves in the thought personality of man, and not only the manifested results in the material world. The total reactions gained are the disagreeable, calamitous, and positively bad; the agreeable, non-calamitous, positively good; and the mixed type, or balanced or averaged between good and bad. If an individual identifies with the higher and lives up to the ideal as best as possible, the higher vasanas will multiply and silence the lower completely. The opposite is if we identify with the lower, those tendencies multiply and silence the higher tendencies. This tug of war really then is the individuality of that person. It determines then their personality. It is what makes them who they are. This is only transcended fully when all conditionings have ended and the vasanas or these impressions, they are powerless. This tyag is withdrawal from moment to moment, whereas sannyas is the complete renunciation of all the tendencies. This is the subtle difference between tyag and sannyas. One is withdrawal moment to moment, whereas the other is this complete renunciation. Therefore, the technique recommended here in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, as presented by Sri Krishna, is to detach from the lower sensuous cravings by identifying the nobler ideals of self-control and moral perfection, and the mind thereafter becomes more conditioned. The mind develops the subtle powers of thinking, and on realizing the pure existence, the simple beingness or beingness, all becomings end. It means you already exist in that perfect form, so there is no need for modification or refining what is already there. It is already perfect as it is. So be, just be. There is no need to become. There is no becoming then to the pure spirit. These mixed results, the pleasant, the unpleasant, and in between, only reach those who have an egocentric sense of identification with the action as well as their reaction. The tyagi, or that one who abandons this sense of ego and anxiety for the action results, he is unaffected. This tyag is renouncing our indulgence with the inheritance of the past and leaving all our anxieties for the future to serve the world as a service. It means completely disconnected, merely doing our dues, performing what we must, with no attachment. Simple. This here brings us to the end of today's session, dear friends. Again, continue to read Srimad Bhagavad Gita, continue to practice Srimad Bhagavad Gita, continue to spread the teachings of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and let us help to bring about that much needed transformation. Again, thank you for joining, and Jai Shri Ram.